welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 333 for the 16th of May 2015. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. Good morning. Yes, it's Saturday morning. Yes, the show is a day early. The show is a day early because this week I'm talking to comedian skeptic Lawrence Leung. Skeptical comedian skeptic. I went to see Lawrence's show last night here in Sydney as part of the comedy festival, The Escapist. It was a funny show, great show. I'm about to chat to Lawrence, and you can listen in about the show, about his dealings with James Randi, as he and I were part of the James Randi tour last year, and lots of his skeptical adventures. Coming up, Lawrence Leung, and if you're in Sydney, tonight is Lawrence's last performance. You can go to lawrenceleung.com, more information coming up, and go along and check his show out. Maybe there are still tickets available. Great night out, really enjoyed it. After that, it's Maynard's spooky action. Maynard and I catch up for a quick bite of lunch where Maynard will discuss some of the skeptical topics of the week, including, are we just a three-dimensional projection from a two-dimensional universe? I don't even know what to say about that. Maynard's spooky action. Following that, it's a week in science from the Royal Institution of Australia, looking at jobs for the future. Scientific jobs in the future, what will they be? What might they be? Then to round off the show, we have a special guest reporter, Pontus Bockman from Sweden. Yes, he's going to be talking to some Finnish skeptics from Finland, as you might expect. Now, that's a country I'd like to visit. I would love to visit Finland. Why not? Wow, looks like a beautiful country. What's happening in Finland? And what is Think Helsinki Think? Well, I don't know, but I'd like to go there and think myself. Yes, Helsinki. That whole area in the world has always held a certain wonder for me, I think. I've been to, where have I been? I've been to Denmark, I've been to Norway, I've been to Sweden. Finland, you're next. Now, also for those people living in Sydney or near Sydney, on the 20th of June we have the next Sydney Skeptics dinner meeting, and the topic this time will be autism. The next Sydney dinner will feature Nicole Rogerson, the founding director and CEO of Autism Awareness Australia. No one will give you a better understanding of the myths and reality of autism. And as you probably know, being a regular Skeptic Zone listener, or if you're a new listener, I'll fill you in. Autism is one of the things that the anti-vaccination people keep harping on about, even though that myth has been long since debunked. And debunked is not a word we really like to use too much, but sometimes, well, it's just the right word to use. Well, that's enough for me. I'm going to run downstairs and have, being a Saturday morning, I'm going to have some nice toast. Toast! Underrated. What a classic. Toast with a little bit of cream cheese and maybe a poached egg. Yeah, why not? And coffee. While I'm munching all that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. And joining me now on the line is Lawrence Leung. Hello, Lawrence.
Hey, Richard, how you doing?
I'm well. What a great time I had last night at your show, The Escapist. A lot of laughs. The crowd really loved it. Now, this show is going out extra early to give people in Sydney the chance to see the show tonight. You're playing tonight. What can you tell people about the show? I don't want to give anything away, you see.
Well, I guess it's maybe the fifth or sixth of my solo shows in in the comedy festival. I think I've done 5 or 6 comedy festivals here in Sydney, and this one's at the Factory Theatre in Marrickville tonight at 7:15, and it's called The Escapist. I've kind of got I don't want to give away too much, of course, but there's got 2 threads running through it. One which is my love of Harry Houdini, the great skeptic and escapologist.
Yes.
And also, I guess the other thread is all the embarrassing moments in my life which I've tried to escape from.
Yeah, I think you wove them together quite well. And, of course, as a skeptic, and we can sort of concentrate on the skeptical side of things, Harry Houdini was an interesting character, an interesting case study as a skeptic. He was a man who was originally looking for evidence of the paranormal to communicate with his mother and so on, but ended up really uncovering a lot of shonks out there.
I guess for Harry Houdini, he was someone who is quite aware of deception and trickery. But of course, during the turn of the century, spiritualism was such the rage. It was the fashionable thing at the time. It was, we don't have a reality TV show back then, but for them, everyone wanted to. The coolest thing for the public was to believe in the afterlife. I guess because of the Great War and inventions such as radio and things like that, people got the idea that perhaps we can communicate via the ether to the other side. And of course, Harry Houdini wanted to believe originally. He wanted to communicate to his mother who had died, and he instead uncovered all this, charlatan activity around seances. It's quite a fascinating history, actually, with Harry.
It certainly is, and he's a great case study for any skeptic out there. And here's the segue, Lawrence. I know he is a great interest of the one and only James Randi, and the segue is, of course, that you and I had the pleasure of spending time with James Randi late last year as we toured Australia with his tour, the movie they were showing about his life. And what an experience that was. You took the role of the interviewing Randi on stage in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane, and I had that pleasure in Adelaide and Perth. But my goodness me, it's one of those experiences money just can't buy.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I grew up being quite a big fan of James Randi myself. I remember one of the books that I got when I was a teenager in the library. It was called Conjuring by James Randi Esquire, and it was about the history of magic. It was not a single magic trick instruction in the entire. It was just purely on the history and the love of magic, and I think that's kind of what got me into loving magic and psychology. Just reading the history of magicians, and also I read a lot of James Randi's books after that, and of course here I was many years later, you could say decades later, absolutely sitting across from the man, asking him all the questions I wanted to ask him when I was a little kid.
Yeah, it was such a wonderful experience for you and I both, getting a chance just to chat with Randi. Okay, so there was a huge crowd watching us as we did it in our various locations. But I must say that there was a particularly fine moment for me in the Sydney show where they were playing the movie, and you and I and Randi and a few other people, and Dick Smith, of course, were backstage waiting for the evening to progress. And at one stage, I noticed Randi took you aside and was giving you a few little personal magic trick lessons. That's just pretty priceless stuff.
That's like one of the moments of my life which I'll probably remember forever. I grew up wanting to get into magic after reading his books, and then backstage, just before the show, before his appearance, he was taking me, around the corner, and he was teaching me some of his own magic tricks, some of the card tricks that he'd come up with, mentalism, sort of mind-reading effects of the cards. And I almost could not concentrate on what he was saying because I was so blown away by the moment. But he also had his own rock star moments too. I think because the final session we had in Sydney was at the Metro Theatre, so it was very much a rock and roll style venue, and he loved it. He loved it being in that rock and roll style grungy venue. And I noticed backstage there were a lot of graffiti on the walls by different bands, Akadaka and who knows what else. And James Randi pulled out his own black marker and signed his name on the wall next to all these rock bands.
Yes, I remember. I've got a photograph of that somewhere. I think I thought that was quite a moment. And yeah, I must say that I too, during the course of the tour, I had times where I was just having a private chat with Randy, and he was filling me in some life stories, and he let slip a few of his personal conjuring secrets. And I like you, I couldn't believe it. It was so fascinating. It was. Yeah, one of those moments in life that I think you and I can both remember for many years to come.
Yeah, he's extremely generous with his time. And also, being the final one, the one in Sydney, he gave quite a rousing and emotional, almost a farewell speech to Australia. That one was particularly emotional, to see him sort of saying to the crowd, thanks for coming out and supporting my work and interested in, what he was doing for the past few decades, but also saying that this may be the last time he'll come to Australia, because he's not a young man.
No, sadly, no. I mean, we can always hope that he might come out one more time or whatever the case may be. But yeah, it was at his age, travel is getting more difficult, of course, and we can understand that. But your association with Randy does go back longer than just this past tour. There was a particularly memorable moment where you were making a TV show, and you turned up in Las Vegas at one of the amazing meetings, and I remember seeing you there. And it was a hilarious situation where you were being a psychic for James Randi, looking into the future. Now, what was the name of that show?
The show was called Unbelievable, and it was a 6-part, I would say, skeptically enhanced comedy documentary series on ABC. And one of the episodes was about psychics, and the final challenge was to see, in this particular episode, whether I could try to convince James Randi that I was psychic. Could I win a simulation of the $1 million test?
Yeah.
The $1 million challenge. So I had a crystal ball mounted in this beautiful wooden case, and I said to James Randi, and Banachek was also there, and they were the panelists I said I can try to fathom the information from the universe about anything, any question you ask me. But of course, what I had inside, actually, they busted me straight away. They knew something fishy was going on. And both Banachek and Randi had worked out that I had something hidden inside the base of the crystal ball. And underneath the crystal ball, I, of course, had an iPad to the internet, so to Google and his own wiki page. So I could pretty much say anything I knew about James Randi from his own wiki page that I was looking down through crystal ball into the iPad.
I think that made for great television. That was a hilarious segment. And it was during the same visit. And I remember chatting to Banachek just after this event. You went for a drive with Banachek where he was completely blindfolded, and it really freaked you out.
Oh, absolutely. So originally I just wanted to film him doing maybe a book test or some sort of easy, quick mind-reading exercise that he could demonstrate for my cameras. But he suggested, no, I'll go for a blindfold drive. Why don't you bring some gaffer tape and hire a car, and we'll meet in the car park the next day. So we did that. So this was our vehicle. It was our gaffer tape. He held coins up to the sun so we could see that there was no sunlight that could go through. It wasn't transparent in any way. There were no holes in the coins. He put them over his eyes. We gaffer taped the coins over his own eye sockets and pressed it around his face so there were no gaps. And then he put a blindfold over that. And then we got inside the car, and this was not his car. This was our car that we had hired, and he drove us at quite high speed through the streets and highways of Las Vegas, stopping at red lights, moving past cars, turning correctly at corners and intersections. And it was terrifying, and there was no way I could tell how he did it. And he kept on saying, I'm not a psychic, I'm a skeptic, I'm a magician, this is completely a trick. But of course we couldn't see how he could do the trick. It was quite amazing. And the funny thing was, during the actual trip, we had to keep editing. Every time we see a cut in the footage, it's probably because either myself or my camera crew was swearing because we're so terrified.
That was a brilliant television too. And I really enjoyed that series, and I will admit here I was very naughty. I accidentally recorded it as it was being broadcast for my own archives. If people wanted to look at that series, Unbelievable, which I think was about 3 years ago now, is that available?
Yeah. I mean, like yourself, I think there's a lot of people who have torrented or found it or recorded it. So it's out there on the internet. At the moment, we're looking into trying to get it up again so that people can actually see it. It would be wonderful if it was streaming. Imagine putting it on Netflix. That would be amazing. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's a great idea. If anybody from Netflix is listening, Unbelievable was a fantastic skeptical series. It was comedy too, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's comedy. It was comedy, but also quite educational. I mean, on one hand, I tried my best not to make fun of other people. I gave people the chance to say what they believed in and their evidence for it. And I really left the audience to judge for themselves. But my main focus was in terms of making a comedy, was to make fun of myself in this world, both as a skeptic and as a human being walking into these strange worlds. And it was absolutely so much fun to make. And I got so many wonderful emails from teachers, psychology teachers in high school, saying that it should be compulsory viewing for kids. And that's what I love the most, because I didn't think I was making it for schools. But what it turned out was the psychology and a lot of the skeptical and critical thinking that I put into the TV show, a lot of teachers and students really loved it.
Yeah, for me, there was some very interesting episodes. Of course, the UFOs I enjoyed very much, but the episode where you took on the guise of a fortune teller in the fortune teller tent and simply rattled off song lyrics at people and let them read into it what they wanted to or what it meant to them, and giving you credit then for mystical insights. That was really educational, I think.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, we've seen, a lot of skeptics will be familiar with the Fora test. The whole idea that if you give a whole bunch of random people fortune-telling readings, often people can read into it and say that it's about themselves. And, of course, you then prove, hey, I gave you all exactly the same reading. And that's usually the Fora example to explain how there's a lot of cold reading and sort of self-deception and delusion that goes along in reading into psychic readings. But what we decided to do for TV was to make that type of test more entertaining. And so instead of making the usual rainbow statements or Fora-type statements, we basically used the lyrics from karaoke.
Yes.
And we projected it on a screen behind our subjects, and I would read the karaoke lyrics directly to the subject, unbeknownst to them that there was a screen right behind their head. And it turned out that they would believe these statements. And the funny thing was, we started off doing the typical Fora statements you'd find with cold reading type fortune-telling exercises, but people didn't believe those. They thought, it's too general. But when we went into the bizarre Madonna or Eminem lyrics, people were reading into those more. And so what it turned out was, if you go too general, people won't believe it. But if you go ultra-specific and quite absurd, people will work harder into trying to believe it and come up with a justification of their own.
Wow, that's fascinating. It's almost worth a paper, that.
Yeah,
that's really interesting stuff from a skeptical point of view, and talking to someone who investigates these people.
It worked so well that people were telling me that they thought it was a comedy sketch, that we had just got actors and I'd written a script and people were just acting along to a script. But they were genuine people who didn't know what was going on, just to test out the actual examples of how cold reading would work. So it was actually genuine.
Yeah, no, a great series, a memorable series. I hope it become widely available so people all around the world can look at it. But I think you've been doing some other television just recently, huh?
Yes, that's right. I made a series called Maximum Choppage, and it was a 6-part kung fu comedy series. Some would say Australia's best kung fu comedy series. Australia's only kung fu. And that was absolutely great fun. It was an ABC2 series where we filmed it in Cabramatta, and we had a lot of genuine, stunt workers and martial artists in the series, both acting on screen and also being our doubles, our stunt doubles, and it was just so much fun.
Good for you. Oh, I'm glad that you're still on our screens, so to speak. However, for our Sydney listeners, the news is, of course, tonight it's the show The Escapist with Lawrence Leung. That was at the Factory, wasn't it, Lawrence?
Yeah, Factory Theatre, 7:15 p.m. this evening.
That's right. Now, if you go to Lawrence's website, which is www.lawrenceleung.com, and I'll link that on the show notes, or Google Lawrence Leung, you should be able to see, hopefully, fingers crossed, see if there are still some tickets for tonight's performance.
Otherwise, check out www.sydneycomedyfestival.com.au and just do a search for The Escapist, and the links and the booking place will all be there.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Lawrence, and thanks for the show last night. We had a great time. The audience really appreciated it. And it's good to know that there are at least some sceptical people out there in the media.
Good to speak to you again, Richard.
On Maynard.com.au.
Bunga bunga!
Tim Ferguson's right of reply.
Get this and get it straight.
A guy called Mark Lionel was the first person to complain about genetically modified crops. And he said that the new strains developed would eat all the other strains because they'd be stronger strains and would basically be the end of the world. He reversed his position after he had gone and researched his position and realised that this is bunkum, that in fact people and God itself have been genetically modifying all sorts of things from the word go. Do you realise that bananas themselves, only a few years ago, the original banana was in fact a small dark fruit filled with seeds, and yet we all eat bananas. And they haven't gone and destroyed anything. There hasn't been a banana plague. But against these facts, South Australia, which is a part of Australia that we keep in the south so it doesn't touch anybody or drink too much wine or kill people with barrels.
Although there were no convicts there initially.
No, exactly, just a whole bunch of Germans. That rings a bell. South Australia has decided it will extend a moratorium on genetically modified crops until at least 2019. And this is for no sensible, logical or scientifically backed reason. This is purely conjecture based upon superstition.
I think Morrissey supports it.
Morrissey thinks it's great. And only a gum-sucking idiot or someone from South Australia who's trying to suck up to the rather large Green contingent in the Parliament, who are also idiots who believe this fantasy, would ever go with it. Being against genetically modified crops means you are being pro-crops that require more land, that require more water, crops that cannot help countries that are drier even than our own. The reason why we genetically modify crops is so that the crops will survive and give us higher yields with less water, less land all over the world. South Australia, stand up and join the crowd. And what's the reason? What's the reason they gave? Some gumnut, a minister called Leon Bignell, who won't last long, is probably gone already, said we've got a strong reputation, not just around Australia, but around the world for producing clean, green, premium food. It doesn't matter whether it's genetically modified or not. It's grown out of the ground, it's organic, and of course it's clean and green. Get it together, monkeys.
That has been Tim Ferguson's right of reply to a question no one asked with an answer that people might not want to hear.
Thank you very much. Oh, I do like saying things that are just common sense.
On Maynard.com.au.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Just the cutlery.
Yes, Maynard, you can stand by me. We're here at Cafe 2042 Cafe in Delhi in Newtown, where my origami photography exhibition is.
And it's all been happening this week. Been a bit of paranormal action going on this week that all skeptics should have their eyes on, because a couple of big things have broken that have excited my tiny ape brain and made me fill my undies with wonder.
Really, Maynard? That's unusual. What's been happening in the paranormal world? Because you like to keep your finger on the pulse of these things.
Look, I keep up on the game there. Of course, my good friend Jamie Leonardo J. Katz, he's got his eye across all potential theories of everything. And he gave me a call the other day and he said, look, Maynard, it's been a bit of a disappointment with this alien slide that was revealed in Mexico. There was a slide. A slide. There was 2 Kodachrome slides found in the attic of a couple that had fairly good connections to the Eisenhower administration, apparently, and there was a slide that was going to be shown to 6,000 people in a stadium in Mexico, which is where all major scientific discoveries are usually unveiled, in a stadium. And it was found that the slide was somewhat disappointing. Everyone thinks that, no, it looks like something that was maybe taken in a museum during the 50s or something like that. It doesn't look like that's the way you would display an alien if that was an alien under a glass case. Bit disappointing, that one there, unfortunately, for people that were interested in UFOs and people who weren't. It seems like it's a bit of a non-starter. But the one that's been a big starter, and the one that I'm sure all listeners of the Skeptic Zone know I've been pushing for many years, is hologram theory. Look that up on Wikipedia for the simple definition of it. But basically there's been a few mathematics done by some physicists, theoretical physicists, that may point to the fact that we are living in a three-dimensional reproduction coming from a two-dimensional object.
I can't get my one-dimensional brain around that.
No, I actually read some of this physics, and I don't understand it at all. I thought maybe we should get someone, the skeptics, on this who knows a bit about it. But look, I'm all down with the fact that we are a projection, because certain things don't make sense in this world, and I think that is entirely due to the fact that we are a three-dimensional representation being projected from a two-dimensional object, such as the side of a black hole or something.
The side of a black hole?
Because everything would be squished so flat that there would be no third dimension on the side of a black hole. I'm just theoretically supposing.
Now you're starting to freak out my tiny ape brain.
Well, this is where this thing kind of goes, but because I'm into thinking about such things, and, I am a critical thinker, which means I love the work of Michio Kaiko. Despite what Skeptic's Guide to the Universe says, I'm down with that guy. Now, I'm probably giving people umbrage, as Mr. Ferguson would say.
Yeah, Mr. Ferguson. Yeah, in fact, I just played the promotion for Bunga Bunga. How's that going?
Well, in the latest episode, Bunga Bunga 14, Tim comes. We hit a lot of skeptical topics. You had fracking the other week. We spoke about vaccination. We spoke about the policy of the Abbott government, and I think you've got them coming up in future weeks. And Tim's not scared to put his foot in the bumhole of conventional and unconventional thinking.
Tim's a fearless comedian warrior, huh?
That's right. Look, and I definitely think he's a critical thinker. As someone with MS, I think he said on this show that lots of people are often emailing him with potential cures for MS that are not known to the medical world for good reason, and he usually emails it back to them and says something like, yeah, I tried that and that gave me MS. That's what he normally does. He likes to stir the pot.
He does. Well, thanks, Maynard, for this little update. We look forward to more Maynard's spooky action in the coming weeks.
We'll be having some, and tune into Bunga Bunga and see what's going on there, or maynard.com.au. I've got an interview with a Australian film director this week, a movie called The Heckler, which is all about swapping bodies and doing things like that. And for the critical thinker, it's very interesting because when you're trying to distribute films around Australia, you've got to get people's attentions, and people who put things onto television around Australia probably aren't being as sharp and as critically thinking as they should be. That's all I'm saying.
You heard it here first. Thanks, Maynard. Let's have some lunch.
I'm hungry, and remember, we're living in a three-dimensional world that's projected from a two-dimensional object. You heard it here first.
Раз, два, три, четыре.
Друзья, меня зовут Кирилл Алферов, и я основатель общества скептиков. Мы зовем вас на наши встречи, которые проходят каждые 2 недели в Москве, и также приглашаем послушать наш подкаст, который выходит каждую неделю. Подкаст называется «Скептик», а сайт, на котором вы можете узнать о нашей деятельности, это www.skepticsociety.ru. Hey everybody, my name is Kirill, and I'm the founder of Skeptic Society Russia. Come visit us in Moscow in our bi-weekly meetings, and also listen to our weekly podcast, which is called Skeptic. And the site where you can find all of that is skepticsociety.ru.
Welcome to A Week in Science from RiAus, bringing you the science you need to know. What are the science jobs of the future? Well, we've put our prediction hat on and we've come up with a few out-of-the-box ideas. A global future farmer is going to use advanced technology to produce food. Future farmers will be experts in using drones and satellite imagery and will be able to scan plant and animal genes to find the best produce. Farms themselves may change, with more vertical farms rather than expansive fields, and herds of farmed locusts replacing cows. Policing will change too, with more focus on cyber policing. Cybersecurity experts will need to continue to create technology to prevent criminals from hacking and to prevent online theft. Nanomedics could be the future of medicine. They'll engineer smart nanomaterials such as self-healing polymers and develop wearable smart devices which constantly monitor a person's health and automatically make changes to maintain perfect health and heal injuries. We'll need e-waste managers to develop and oversee ways of getting rid of high-technology waste. This could include reusing industrial waste or recycling technology. And forget travel agents. In the future, they could be dimensional time and space experts. Managing space travel and augmented reality experiences, people could travel to the outer reaches of the solar system or other amazing worlds without having to leave Earth. And now, 4 fast facts about STEM careers. The United States has predicted STEM careers will grow by around 17% each year, compared to less than 10% for non-STEM jobs. Again, in the United States, people working in STEM jobs earn an average of 26% more than people in non-STEM roles. In Australia, 75% of the fastest growing occupations require STEM knowledge and skills. And don't look at STEM studies necessarily as locking you into a future in science. More and more employers in many different fields are looking for people with STEM skills. That's it for This Week in Science. For more information on future STEM careers, go to the RiAus website, riaus.org.au. Follow us on Twitter at RiAus and like us on Facebook. I'm Tania Meyer and we'll catch you next week.
The Skeptic magazine, the journal from Australian skeptics. Subscribe online to the world's second oldest skeptical magazine. Visit www.skeptics.com.au and click the publications link. You can also find there over 30 years of back issues free to download. The Skeptic, the magazine from Australian skeptics.
So here I am on Skype with Tatu, Ritanen and Markus Sandelin, skeptical activists from Helsinki in Finland. Hello there.
Hello.
So nice. Hello. I'm now so nice of you to join me.
Hey Pontus, nice to be here.
So, and the reason I wanted to talk to you is that you recently organized a very special event in Helsinki. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. Think Helsinki Think is, we did it the first time, this time in April, about a month ago. And we wanted to try a new thing where we have stand-up comedians, scientists, and critical thinkers like James Randi on stage for the same time. This time was 3.5 hours and 750 people were there in Helsinki, and we also streamed it live across the world in English.
That's fantastic. This is your first event, right?
Yes, actually, we have never before arranged any events. So we were like rookies at the first time, but
Well, I have pretty big birthdays in my history, but yeah. Still.
I think that's quite impressive. How did it get started?
We were last June in Stockholm and watching Louis Black's stand-up gig, and after the gig we went to the pub and had some beers, and then we started thinking that maybe someday why don't we bring those people in Finland, in Helsinki?
Yeah, and also the stand-up culture is very young still in Finland and even in Scandinavia and Europe, and me and Tatu really enjoy the stand-up scene and the critical stand-up guys from America and the UK. And we were thinking, why couldn't those guys come more often to Helsinki to do their thing? And then I thought, after the third old-fashioned, is maybe we should have scientists there as well, like Carl Sagan and Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Fantastic. But how did you get someone like James Randi, for instance, to come to your, at the point, unheard of event?
Actually, it's quite easy. You take a phone and call or write an email.
Yeah, promise a lot of money.
Yeah.
That means you had to fund it somehow. How did you fund this?
No, it's just we find a few sponsors and we try to find a lot of partners who we can get good prices from on their services. And just we've been doing this in terms of marketing and advertising and all that stuff for over 15 years. So that's something we kind of know better than other stuff. So we weren't really rookies in this kind of the whole ideology of doing events.
And what was the outcome? Was it a big success? How was it received?
Well, I mean, in terms of media, for the last week, I really hadn't planned on any media interviews or anything else. I was planning to drive James Randi around to a couple of interviews, but it ended up they interviewed me more than James Randi, and they interviewed Randi a lot.
Fantastic. So who else was there apart from James Randi?
We have some local scientists like Iris Hovatta and Syksy Räsänen, and then we have from Liverpool University Tara Shears, and of
who's
course
working at the Large Hadron Collider. Yeah.
American now I think British comedian Reginald D. Hunter.
Yeah, Reginald D. Hunter is an interesting character because, as we all know, Scandinavia and Finland are full of white people, and this whole idea of black people and racism is still there. And one part of being a critical thinker, critical thought, to have Reginald D. Hunter there, who is brilliant jokes on racial issues, because his kind of this main story is doing this American black guy coming to Europe. How is he seen here and how is he kind of approached here?
So was this a one-time thing? Then you will never do it again, or what's the plans going forward?
Actually, this is growing because we originally was planned to do one event annually, and now it seems that we are going to do at least two events every year, and our next event is going to be in September this year.
So who have you lined up for that event?
We have an English doctor and a skeptic, Ben Goldacre, the writer of Bad Pharma and Bad Science. We have Sanal Edamaruku, the Indian guy who was fighting against the Christian church in India and has now been in exile for 2 years because he can't go back to India.
Yeah. He lives in Finland now.
He does, yeah. Because, it's the most nice place in the world, as you know, Pontus.
I'm sure it is.
and we have Robin Ince, who's probably most known currently from being the other half with Brian Cox on the Infinite Monkey Cage podcast. Mm-hmm. And he's also the former writing partner of Ricky Gervais, I think, and a brilliant comedian, a very, very good guy, and a brilliant thinker. And we have Ilona Riipinen, who is the microparticle researcher in the atmosphere now, a professor in University in Stockholm.
But I think you don't have a scientific background, do you?
No, we're just ordinary dudes.
Well, I'm a coder / salesperson / any kind of person / dad. Sorry, that will continue.
Yeah, I'm an art director in marketing business, mostly in digital, but yeah, art director.
So I understand also that there is an official National Skeptics Association in Finland called Skepsis. Are you part of them, or have you started something separate?
Well, we are both members of that society, but what we are doing is a separate thing. Of course, we like to combine all the skeptics in Finland and cooperate with them, but we are not only doing this for a skeptic society.
You have arranged one big event. You have another one coming in September. What is the future for you two?
Well, we have to pay for all of this eventually, so we probably have to grow the event or do a tour kind of thing. It's already been asked, and it's kind of been a solution for a long time already. If we're bringing these awesome speakers, performers here, just in Finland, and Finland, this is rather a small city, and the biggest venue is like 1,400 people. I mean, apart from a hockey arena, but we're not going to fill 14,000 people. And we want a more, nice atmosphere. So going to, say, Sweden or Denmark or Norway, because they're close by and very similar cultures. So that's an interesting idea we're toying with at the moment.
All right. So how is the situation in Finland? Can you give me some examples of prominent pseudoscience or other woo in Finland?
Pseudoscience has been getting so much attention in media in the last few years. We have these unicorn healers and angel therapists getting all the attention in media, and so we now have the $1 million from Randi in Finnish, and we can do the kind of initial screening in Finland and then send them forward, because we wanted to really show how lazy the journalist can be when the topic is about alternative hand quotation treatments.
I think in Sweden, a lot of the time when I switch on the television, I do see a lot of woo. Is that the same in Finland? I mean, about, like psychic shows, like haunted houses and stuff. Is that also prominent in Finland?
Yes, we have those TV shows, but it's more like papers are doing and newspapers are doing articles without critical response or thinking about those people, like ghost hunters or, like I said, angel therapists.
What's an angel therapist? Is it somebody who heals angels?
I don't know. It's something like that. You get power from angels, and some kind of a star power, and you heal people. And
I think the woo term is mediums. There are mediums that convey the power and light of healing light of angels into your life and soul. And
that's okay. You can do that if you want as a hobby. But when you're selling services like that, then you're doing some kind of disservice for the other people who are in need.
Oh, yes, I do agree.
Yeah, and we've had big things like there's one famous, well, not famous, he's a Finnish dancer, kind of like a male stripper, who was found to have cancer, and instead of taking the proper treatment, he decided to do it au naturel. And so we had one of the biggest tabloids in Finland write a headline saying that his cure for cancer, alternate treatments are actually affecting him in a positive way. And as soon as you read the ingress of that article, you see that he hasn't been to a doctor. The media is still saying that he's being healed on these things. And if people just read the headline, someone might think that, hey, I don't need to I'll just eat sunlight.
No, that's very, very dangerous now when it gets credibility because famous people speak out like that. How about the anti-vaccination movement? Do you have that in Finland as well?
Yeah, everywhere there's a yoga hall or whatever temple they call it. There's some people. Right. It's this kind of. I think it's the same all around the world at the moment. You have a lot of these organic hippies, afraid of big pharma, and then be ready to kill everyone. They have trained snipers aimed at their head all the time, and they're just paranoid. They're like the Lone Rangers in X-Files.
Yeah, all hippies are organic, I think.
Yeah, I don't eat any of them, but I trust your judgment on this, Pontus.
So is there any pet hate you have? Anything that really, Markus, if you had to choose one that you would eradicate from Finland, what would that be?
I think those. I mean, anti-vaxxers probably, because as a father of two myself, it's definitely something to bring back diseases, very, very dangerous diseases that we kind of have managed to get rid of, to bring them back just because you're scared of what the TV says. That's just wrong. It's just, there's no way, no reason behind that.
And Tatu, do you have one?
Yes, I do. Well, it's religion, because I would like to get rid of it. But of course, I understand the people's need for religion, and it actually fascinates me. But still, I would like to get rid of it.
I have a special question here. This is a little bit off the point here, but there is a question from Richard Saunders. Is Finland a part of Scandinavia or not? Or is that a new kind of pseudoscience?
There are a lot of ABBA fans who like to say we're part of Sweden and Scandinavia, but I mean I think it comes from because Finland was under very tyrannical Swedish rule for almost 600 years. And,
but you've forgiven us for that now.
No, never.
Sure we have. Yeah, sure. Come by and we'll show you how much we've forgiven you.
Yes.
I
don't know. Maybe we'll still have to file that under not. We haven't really figured that out yet.
I can tell Mr. Saunders, ask someone who knows. Don't ask a guy who's being interviewed by another guy who doesn't know.
Not from the dudes.
Yeah, dude.
Fair point. So, if anybody wants to know more about your Think Helsinki Think activities, or the Finnish skeptical movement at all, where can they go and find out more?
You can go to www.thinkhelsinkithink.com and subscribe for more. And September 4th, our next event is coming. It's going to be starting at 5:30 EET, which is GMT +2. And it's going to be streamed live across the world, and it's going to be all in English. So come and join us, fellow readers and subscribers.
We have a very active Facebook group, and join the conversation, discussions.
And the name of the Facebook group is Think Helsinki Think, I imagine?
Yes. And you can find all the links to everything we do, whatever media writes from us, on our website.
Okay, very, very good. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before we finish this?
No, buy tickets.
Come
to Finland.
Okay.
Yeah, come to Finland. It's awesome. And if there's any Australian listeners out there on this podcast, the official after party is run by the Woolshed Pub, which is run by Aussies.
Oh,
so
very
come
good.
by.
I will do my best. Absolutely. Okay, Tatu, Ritanen, Markus, Sandelin, thank you very much. And good luck with your next event.
Tack så mycket, Pontus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you annoyed by misinformation spreading like crazy, and you want to stop the flood of nonsense coming from all directions? Go to Wikipedia, as do all those millions out there. Did you know there's an edit button on all Wikipedia articles? Why don't you go and hit that button to start making the world's largest online encyclopedia a more reliable source of information? If you're specifically interested in skeptical topics, come and join us at Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia, an international endeavor to change the world for the better, word by word. There are many ways you can contribute. You just need to start. You speak several languages, all the more reason to join us. We provide training and all the help you need. If you want to make a change, there's a nice community waiting for you out there. Contact us at gsowteam@gmail.com, visit our website, that's guerrillaskeptics.com, or check out the Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia Facebook page.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and once again, if you're in Sydney and you've got time tonight, see if you can come along and catch the last performance of Lawrence Leung's show, The Escapist. Now, just before I sign off, I had a little note. There's a new podcast that you might want to check out. It's called Space Welders. Space Welders. A podcast about gaming, technology, and some science thrown in. Might be of interest to you, might be of interest. It's a new podcast, always happy to see people starting out a new podcast, seeing how it goes. You can check that out at https://soundcloud.com/spacewelders. One word. Good luck, guys. It's a lot of fun doing a podcast. And thank you to Pontus from Sweden for doing that interview as a special guest reporter for the Skeptic Zone. I really enjoyed that, actually. I wonder if I'll bump into Pontus at the amazing meeting coming up in July in Las Vegas. Looking forward to that a great deal. More about that in the coming weeks. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for contacts, an archive of all episodes since 2008, and our online store. Please support the Skeptic Zone by following us on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, liking us on Facebook, and leaving a review on iTunes. You can also show your support by subscribing via PayPal for as little as 99 cents a week. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics Inc. or any other skeptical organisation.